Is there not an entire section on this subject?
Yes, so it's unfair. I may have changed my mind about ether, for example.
Is your book for sale back?
Yes.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure. I just go and try and do a better job.
Say it like you mean it. This is my Bible.
Yo, Trey.
What up?
I got something to say.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let Me Tell You, episode 90. I'm your host, the Evangelical Norm. It has been a weird week. We are late, obviously, in dropping this episode. Usually we come out on Monday morning, but with just different things that have come up, issues, work, construction in the basement, it has been postponed, delayed. But what they say, better late than never, right? I actually think being delayed helped a little bit because I think it probably toned down as angry as I was with some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. I mean, I was livid over the weekend. I mean, early last week and through the weekend was just... and I thought I would be over it come Thanksgiving. But yeah, that didn't happen. Just continued to watch things with COVID and stuff like that. And so, teaser, maybe, that's not even really a teaser. That is just, we'll get there. But first off, let's talk about the obvious elephant in the room. We still have no president-elect. No. Joe Biden is not the president-elect yet, and likely will be. Again, we've done whole episodes on this. More than likely, I seriously doubt. Now, I get these little glimmers of hope, especially listening to Steve Deace and Cross Politic today. It's Wednesday. Go look at Cross Politics Midweek Fix, the gentleman that they talked to today. It does give little glimmers of hope that there might be enough evidence out there to overturn this election. Not that I am super excited about another 4 years of a Trump presidency, but I'm absolutely fearful of 4 years of a Joe Biden, a Kamala Harris presidency, because this is not going to be a Joe Biden presidency. Again, we've talked about that ad nauseum. Joe's not going to be president. If they do certify this election on behalf of Joe Biden, he is not going to be president more than 15 minutes. The amount of time it takes to do the paperwork for the 25th Amendment, to have him declared unfit for office, and bye-bye Joe, hello President Kamala Harris, and who knows what kind of nutcase she's going to pull in as her VP, right? Likely not an old, racist, misogynistic white dude, which is, either way, what you're looking at with Trump or... I take that back. I don't think there's any real evidence that Donald Trump is a racist. Has he said some really dumb things in light of race and so on? Yeah, but he's not a racist. We'll just leave it at that. So there's still lawsuits going on in Philadelphia, Arizona. There's still a lot of legal fighting being done. There's still a lot of really sketchy stuff out there that is fairly credible allegations at this point. Yes, it needs to be proven, has not been proven, but they're fairly credible accusations that are out there, or allegations of malfeasance in the voting system. We'll put it like that. So, as more and more of that comes out, more than likely this coming Sunday, or Monday, when we drop the episode, I'll record on Sunday. We'll talk more about that as the light of those things come to be more realized. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. As we get to the point where we can actually say this is either true or this is false, these things. And I think throughout this week we're going to see more and more. I know there are people testifying in front of the Philadelphia legislature right now, even though, and in Arizona, the two places where people are coming in and giving their statements, those who have sworn affidavits and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what this next week brings in the election sphere. And again, we just have to wait and see. Next week, the 13th of December, is the day that all of this has to be certified or not. And the 14th is when Congress will get together and they will pass a law recognizing the president-elect. And we'll go from there. And at that point, Joe Biden will be the president-elect. There still is no office of the president-elect. And this is and I didn't believe it when Trump had it, when Obama had it, and I don't think Bush ever had an office of the president-elect. No one has ever had this. I think Clinton was the first one to have a office of the president-elect, which is not a constitutionally recognized office. It has absolutely no power. No president has power until they are inaugurated. So they can't make any decisions. Joe can't. I mean, he can start to form his cabinet, which he has started to do, and that is dumpster fire. Just does not seem severe enough to describe the cabinet that Joe Biden is putting together. Then again, we don't know how long that cabinet's going to be there. Kamala Harris may have her own ideas of who she's bringing in to be her administration. We'll see. Maybe we end up with still with the Trump administration. Who knows? Only the next week and a half will tell, and then we will have some real concrete information on who is the president of the United States. And so, let's leave that and talk about something a little less controversial. Colin Kaepernick has been back in the news the last few days because apparently there was a possibility that my beloved Denver Broncos were going to try to sign him because we have no quarterbacks. All four of our quarterbacks are ineligible to play football right now because of COVID regulations and blah, blah, blah. COVID. And to quote my daughter, COVID is ruining everything. And it is. COVID is literally ruining everything. So we have no quarterbacks as the Broncos. So there was, I guess, some talk about bringing in Colin Kaepernick to play for Denver, which here we are Wednesday of the next week. And obviously that didn't happen because it wouldn't have done him any good anyway. Because, again, COVID rules regarding players would say that he would have had to wait 6 days, basically quarantine for 6 days after being tested before he could play. So he wouldn't have been able to play anyway. But here's the deal. Okay. Unpopular opinion. I would be okay. I would even bringing back some of our quarterbacks, I would be okay signing Colin Kaepernick. Again, we haven't seen him engage in a real game in a long time. Granted, his last year and a half, he was not that great. Early on, he had signs of potential of being one of the greatest quarterbacks out there, early in his career. Then kind of became mediocre. He went all Joe Flacco on us. And then became real political and became a liability, essentially. And so I've always said, I've been saying for the last, I don't know, how many years has Kaepernick been out? I don't know. For the last 3 years, maybe more, since his last year and since all the controversy about kneeling and stuff came, I've been saying, sign him, Broncos. Sign him and give him a shot. Get him underneath some of the quarterback coaching that we have under the tutelage of John Elway, and see if he can't become a good quarterback again, and see if he can't do something. We got through the Tim Tebow kneeling years and that controversy fairly okay. I mean, the haters drove him out of Denver, and maybe it would be the same thing, but we could deal with the Kaepernick kneeling controversy as well. Again, I've always maintained, I don't care what you do for the national anthem. I am a veteran. I stand when the anthem is played in my basement. If I'm here in my basement and I'm watching a football game, and I don't think they show it anymore. I haven't watched a lot of games. I usually come in the middle. But I don't know that they show it anymore because of the controversy. But when I would be back in the day, when they did all that, when the national anthem came on and I was sitting in my basement, I would stand up. I stand for the national anthem because I served in the military. I have respect for my flag and I honor it. But part of my time in the military and my willingness to serve in the military, I never saw combat, so I won't say I risked my life except in, potential crazy bar fights. This is the worst I ever saw. So I can't say I risked my life for your right to, but I served for your right to do whatever it is you want to do during the national anthem. If you're making noise, I may shush you. I'm that guy. But if you're sitting next to me and you choose to sit during the national anthem, fine. I don't care. It's on you. That's your choice. You have the freedom as an American to sit, stand, kneel, do jumping jacks, whatever. Just don't interfere with my ability to stand and sing, usually pretty loudly, the national anthem. Because, again, I am proud of my country. I'm proud of my flag. I sing just as loud as I do in church for the songs that I sing to my Savior, not giving any quality, but I don't. It's probably just a bad analogy there. Songs in church are far more important than songs for the country. But still, I sing loud in church. I sing loud when the national anthem comes on. There you go. But I don't care what you do. I don't care what my quarterback does. I don't care what my football team does. If they want to kneel, sit, stand, hang out in the locker room, whatever it is, that is their right as an American to either stand or not. So I would say we still, again, he still wouldn't be able to play this week even if they signed him today, because COVID is ruining it for everybody. But I would be okay. I mean, I guess the last workout that he put on and so on wasn't the greatest. But, I mean, look at what we're dealing with. Drew Lock is a pretty good quarterback. He's okay. He hasn't been the greatest. He hasn't lived up to the hype of last season. Ripien wasn't too bad. Driscoll, Bortles. No, I'll trade any of the three backups for Kaepernick right now. Sight unseen, but again, Elway's not answering my calls. Well, I don't call, I tweet. He's not answering my tweets, and rightly so. Probably a good idea. That's why he's Elway, GM of the Broncos, and I'm Norm, just podcast dude. So there you go. But COVID has kind of messed up everything for football. It's a weird football season. It was a weird basketball season. It's just weird everything because of COVID. And COVID also really did its best to mess up Thanksgiving, and I hope it didn't for you. And this is what really had me just angry. This had me, like, when I first saw this video, which was like 2 days before Thanksgiving, it was probably right after I did my last podcast, and I was determined. I think I almost did a midweek podcast last week just to talk about this because I was so angry about it. But before we get there, I'm going to play this video for you and why I was so angry. But here's the deal. This is yesterday's numbers. I pulled these numbers yesterday because I thought I was going to record yesterday, and then I didn't record yesterday. So we may be a little off. But globally, total cases, 63 million people have contracted COVID-19 throughout the world that have been tested and shown to be positive. That sounds like such a huge number until you put it into context of the 6 billion people in the world. And this is like, and actually I think we're up to 7 billion. This is less than 1%. Less than 1%. Let me say it again. Less than 1% of the people in the world have contracted COVID-19. Did I mention it was less than 1% of the people in the world? 6 billion, even if we go at 6 billion, it would be just over 1%. 600 million would be 10%. 6 billion, right? Okay. Math. It's math. So, at 7 billion people, this is under 1% of the world's total, and the deaths are far less than that. It's not even 1% of, or it's not even 10% of the total cases have died. Right? Right. 6 million would be, if we're doing the count, 6 million would be 10%. Right? 1 is like 0.3 billion would be 0.5% or 5%. 1. So we're talking like 2% of those people who have got it globally have died. When you put that in a global number, I'm trying to do math on the fly. I should have added all these numbers up before, but here you go. This is what you get from Norm when he does podcasting. Put that in globally, this is 0.01%, or less than 0.01% of the global population have died. Now let's jump down to the United States. 13 million people have died in the have contracted the case. So a huge number of the global cases have been in the U.S. Why is that? Because we're closer? I don't know. I don't know why. Because our population is so much higher. I mean, we are 330 million people in the United States. 13 million have contracted the COVID-19 and been tested positive and so on, right? So what is that math-wise? 330 million would be, so we're talking about 5% of the population in the United States have contracted this disease or been tested positive, that have actually had a test. That's not counting those who were asymptomatic, who never knew they had it, who had it and didn't know they had it, and so on. So it could be a far greater number of people have had it. And of those people who have had it, 268,000 people have died. Again, we are talking less than 0.01% of the population of the United States have died from this. You literally have, if you are a citizen of the United States, you have a 95% chance at least, if not a slightly more, 96% chance of never catching it. And you have 99.98% chance of surviving it if you do. So do you understand? I mean, I'm not trying to make light. I'm not saying it's a hoax. I'm not saying it's not dangerous. I'm not saying, but I'm saying again, for the overwhelming majority of the people like me, and I'm pretty sure I had it before they even knew it was here. We've talked about that before. Last November, over a year ago, I had like the worst chest cold cough of my life. I don't remember if I lost my sense of taste or not. I don't remember if that happened. I do know just walking up my stairs made me short of breath. There were 1 or 2 times laying in the recliner upstairs where I slept for 2 weeks because my coughing was keeping my poor wife awake, that I literally laid there and considered, should I call 911? Because I'm having pressure in my chest. Don't at me, bro. I know I was a medic. I'm that guy, and probably should have, didn't. So be it. It is what it is. But I think I had it. I'm pretty sure my daughter had it in February. So all that is to say, I've had 2 sisters. Now I have 1 sister that is currently going through her time. She just got tested positive. I've had another sister that had it. I had a niece that had it, a great nephew that had it, a cousin that had it that spent weeks in the hospital in a medically induced coma. I had a friend in Colorado that I had done his wedding the year before, and he had it and spent time in the ICU. I think he was actually on a ventilator. I don't think they medically induced a coma for him, but he was on a ventilator, intubated and so on. So I know this is a serious virus. And for some people, it is very deadly. For others, it is not. For children, for healthy young people, this is not a death sentence. But this is where I'm going to get heated. But this is the garbage that they've been putting out there, that they're making you. The fear-mongering surrounding this crap is insane, because they are literally trying to make you think that anytime you get together with anybody, you're automatically bound and determined to get this, and it's an automatic death sentence. So this was from Washington State. This is a video that they ran, and just before the holidays, that just angers me. So I'm going to play this for you guys, let you see this video. Most of you probably seen it. If you follow me on Facebook or Twitter, you've seen it, because this is, and I put the quote in there, this is what tyranny looks like. This is literally what tyranny looks like. This is them trying to scare you to the point that you think that even getting together with people in your own home is going to put you on a ventilator and be essentially a death sentence. So here we go. Here's the garbage that you get from Governor Jay Ensley in Washington State.
COVID-19 can find you here when you're just trying to celebrate. It can find you here when you're with your closest friends. Or even here when you're spending time with family. Wear a mask. Stay 6 feet apart. Don't host gatherings, even in your own home. Protect the people you love.
All right, here's the deal. Governor Herbert did this here in Utah, trying to tell people not to host big gatherings in their home, no more than 10 people, blah, blah, blah. Ensley just did it in Washington. Taxpayer dollars, y'all. This is taxpayer dollars went into this video that was made up in Washington State. So they could essentially say, we are the new tyrants, and we are going to tell you what you can and cannot do, or shouldn't do, in your own freaking home. Here's the deal. Governor Herbert, I think I said this last week. I don't know if I did or not, but here we'll say it again. Until you start paying my mortgage, you don't get the right to tell me what I can and cannot do in my own home. In a legal sense. No, I cannot have a meth lab. No, I cannot have a legal casino, or there are things I can't do. You cannot tell me how many people I can have gather in my home. Not when you get to determine what is a state of emergency, and then you get to issue yourself emergency powers to, no. Here's the deal. Here, I'm gonna lay this out. I laid this out on my sister-in-law's things she said, and of course nobody responded to me. Nobody ever responds to Norm because I can back up the things that I say. So people just ignore me. My liberal relatives and so on, when I do make statements on their Facebook pages, they just ignore me because they can't answer. Because I'm not some kook that's coming at you with nonsense. I can back up the crap that I say. Here's the deal. My work, not going to name where I work, but required to wear masks when we're there. Everybody's required to wear masks. It is a requirement. So I wear a mask at work because I like my paycheck and I like my job. Since I have been there, almost 2 months, we have had at least, I can't say exactly, but we have had at least 20 people go out for extended periods of time for COVID. Whether they had it, family member had it, somebody they carpooled with had it. All mask wearers, at least 20 cases and 1 death, which was shocking to me because the guy that died was like 27. Young, very young, not very old. I don't know if he had any comorbidities or anything like that, but he was young. We had, one of the guys I worked closer with in his 70s was out for 2 weeks with COVID. Back to work. No issues. Doing great. Hardest worker on my crew almost. So yeah. All mask wearers, 20 cases at least, 1 death. Most of them not serious. I don't know of anybody except for the one guy who died. And he was actually, they were thinking he was going to come back to work the next day. And he called up and said, you know what, I'm better one day, and called up the next day. You know, I'm kind of feeling a little funky. I'm going to stay home one more day. And his wife found him dead later that morning. So tragic that it happened the way that it happened. I'm not downplaying that part. But here we have required masking, all mask wearers, 20 cases, 1 death. My church has been meeting since April. No masks, no social distancing, loud singing. I think I mentioned that already. And hugs, handshakes, you name it, we're doing it. Probably close to 140 to 170 people on any given Sunday in our church building. So we are close. At work, we're spread out throughout the building. Church, we are close. We are not social distant. We are not wearing masks. 0 cases that I know of. And I'm probably sure we would have heard about it and been praying for people. For the people who have been at our church, 0 cases. I know of one couple that had gone off, part of our church for years. God bless them. Didn't leave out of animosity. Went to support another church plant that is closer to their house of another really good friend. So I don't know why I had to go down that rabbit trail, but after they left, and I don't know, this is anecdotal, but they got COVID after they left, going to a church where they're social distancing, and I don't know if I think they are masking at this other church. I'm not 100% sure. Here's what I'm thinking. I've got two thoughts in mind of why this is the case. I'm not a scientist. I don't have any grant money to do the test on this and do the studies on this, but somebody should. Either wearing the masks is giving people a false sense of security, so they're either not washing their hands the way they should, maybe they're getting a little too close I don't know. I mean, I don't wear a mask anywhere but work. But when I go to the store or anything, I'm not up in anybody's faces. At church, I give people hugs, I handshake, but I wash my hands a lot. I use a whole lot of stinking hand sanitizer. I mean, every time I turn around, I'm using hand sanitizer at church because we are a kid church. We are people that have our kids in church with us, and 75%, I think, of in church, in service children stuff is cleanup. I'm watching so many moms clean up. I'm grabbing tissues to help moms clean up because I like to help, and I'm that guy, right? And then I use hand sanitizer. If I sneeze, I use hand sanitizer. If I cough, I use hand sanitizer. If I scratch my head, I use hand sanitizer. I think I'm becoming more and more germophobic in my old age. I'm not OCD, but I use a lot of hand sanitizer. So does everybody else in the church. They wash their hands. And I think because we're not wearing masks, we are a little bit more cautious, and we are, I think we are a little bit aware of some of the older people. Maybe it is, a handshake and then a step back and stuff like that. But we still do all that. I'm hugging people, not making any difference. So I'm thinking either masks give people a false sense of security. Here's my real thought. And again, this is where I wish I had the money to do the study. But when I'm face to face with somebody and we're talking and they're breathing at me and I'm breathing at them, my nose does what my nose is supposed to do. And it filters out germs and bacteria and stuff like that. God made nose hairs for those purposes, to help as a first line of defense against sickness and illness and so on. So those germs are going by and they're in and they're out and they're gone. In the weird possibility that someone is close enough and they actually get a little spittle on my face, I wipe that stuff off and I use hand sanitizer. Right? We clean after those things. If you're wearing a mask and somebody somehow gets droplets and stuff on your mask, it just sits there. And you are constantly breathing it in and out and in and out. It's just hanging out there on your mask. Moisture and germs and stuff like that, and your own germs and this, all this stuff is just sitting there, getting moist on your mask and there. And so there's so much more of a chance of you inhaling something there that's going to get past the defenses. It's just my opinion. That's my speculation. But what I can tell you, and it is anecdotal, but it is reality, required masking at work, 20 cases in a month and a half at least of whether, and again, not necessarily all positives, but family members, so on. We've had people out. At least 20 people since I started in a month and a half for long periods of time. One death. Church, meeting since April, not social distancing, no masks, 0 cases. I think you know where I stand on the masking thing. I think you know where I stand on the gathering thing. I've been playing poker with guys from church once a month on a Saturday night in close quarters for months since, we had one in April. We called it our COVID game, and actually maybe it was March, and I bought a big bottle of Corona for the occasion, being my sense of humor. So again, we have had these gatherings. These mandates, these lockdowns, this is not loving your neighbor. This is not loving your neighbor, making them lock down. We should do what the Bible tells us to do. The old people should quarantine. Those who are fearful can stay home. It is your right. You can wear a mask. You can do whatever you want. But requiring people who are young and healthy to do these things is tyranny. It is not constitutional. It is not right. And it is not loving. I know people who are on the verge of losing their businesses because of these multiple shutdowns, who have had to do GoFundMe accounts in order to keep their business alive so they can feed their families. How is that loving your neighbor, forcing them to shut down? Now, if anybody out there wants to shut down their business, that is their right. And if you don't want me in your business unless I'm wearing a mask, that is your right too. And I will go find somebody, because I found plenty of places that will not say anything. I have been in Costco. I have been in Walmart. I have been in Mavericks and 7-Elevens and you name it. I've gone in there without a mask and I bought my things and I've got out and nobody's died. Specifically me. So there you go. These governmental mandates are tyrannical overreach, and you will not change my mind. You cannot change my mind in those situations, because those are wrong, and the government should not be doing this. Take care of those who are ill. They should quarantine when we know they're ill. If they are fearful or susceptible, then yes, they need they can quarantine, take care of themselves. Those who are young and healthy should be out doing their thing, maybe even catching this so we can develop herd immunity. If we had just not locked down and let the virus do what the virus does in the young and the healthy that aren't going to die, and kept the old and infirm and those who are susceptible away from it, then we would have developed herd immunity. We wouldn't need a virus or a vaccine. We wouldn't need any of these things. We could just go on and do our thing. And we'd be where Sweden is, with a low rate at this point. But every time we do these lockdowns, we have a spike after they come out. Go figure. People go back out in public, and then the virus is still there. You lock people down and you force them into, hideaways. Then okay, they're quarantined, they're away from stuff, and then when they go back out, the virus is still there. It still has to be dealt with. That's why you get spikes. And yes, if you do increase testing, you get increased positives and increased negatives. If you go from testing 1,000 people to 10,000 people, and you were getting 10% positive on 1,000, of which is 100, and then you get 10% positive on a 10,000, it's 1,000. That's going to look like a spike. It's math. My favorite line in Spider-Man Far From Home. It's math. It's math. And that's all it is. And it's math, and it's sad, and it's not a hoax, but masks don't work, lockdowns don't work. Common sense, hygiene, wash your filthy hands, stay home if you're sick. If you're showing any symptoms, stay home, get tested. But if you're not, go do your thing. Get out there, live your life, and preach the gospel at all times. Use words, they're necessary. Until next week, Soli Deo Gloria.